Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. And then the other board members, one was an ex-president of a bank, one was the ex-head of a law firm, and he got some big, and he's added one in recent years. And so then they managed their affairs, and like he said, the seller was no good. We threw him out. But he doesn't go walk through, and he can't smell death like I can. And so he gives him 3 months. And what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And then when you don't do it, you're out. How are you going to do it? And if the how sounds reasonable, he allows him, then you're out. But you got to pull the trigger and get rid of people as well. That, that's one of the things as the Viking bitch struggled with, it's not easy. And some of you in this room have never fired anybody. Well, there's always a first time. You were once all virgins. Hopefully you're not anymore. There's always the first time. And, but when it's fun to fire people, people think it's fun for me. It's not fun. I know I ruin your life. You can't make your mortgage payment. You lose. I understand all that. But my skin has gotten thick over the years. That's why Sally calls me rhino skin. But I'm looking out for me and my family. I'm not looking out for you and your family. That's, and that's Gratsos. And the Greeks were kind of like gangsters too. But he says, when you're part of the Onassis family, everybody else can fuck off. He didn't say it that way. He said it much more politely. I don't think I ever heard him say a swear word. But he said that we take care of our own. You've heard that before, you take care of our own. That's fine. But that company that he had 118 employees. I think 102 of them were relations. And he sold the company to the employees. The CFO, if I remember correctly, had 15%, and he had 85%. And he went back, and he made that call, and then he went back, and some of the people whined, and they said, he left the CFO in charge, and then they bought him out. He thought he would cash flow, I forget, in 3 months. He cash flowed in 7 months. Took him 7 months. In other words, buy new revenue that he could pay himself. And up until that 7 months, he borrowed money against the purchase price that they bought him out for. Okay, so the payments that they were making, and it's a long fucking note. I think he gave him 25 years to buy the fucking company. And so but he cash flowed in the 8th month. Took him 7 months. If you cash flow in the 8th month, you should think all your motherfucking birthdays came at once, because it's not easy. And in other words, cash flow meaning he could pay his bills, and he got a lot of bills. Some of you don't have any bills, so maybe you can cash flow in 2 months. But I would look to cash flow in the first year, and then you're in the top 2 or 3%, and then you have momentum moving forward, and he's done fucking terrific. And of course now he's a businessman of this, that, and the other thing. And then when he had problems with his wife, and we talked, and I told him what my suggestion was, which he took, as he said he talked to me, he moved his family to Cape Town. And that's a lovely part of the world. And so they're still working at it, but he sees his family roughly once a month. And I didn't see my kids once a month. I saw them maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And I'm paying the price for that now. I was a shitty father. I was a world-class provider. Putting food on the table, money in the bank, buying shit like this. But I was, at best, a mediocre father. And I'm probably not even a mediocre granddad. And that's, as like David was going through, you may not consciously admit some of the things that he alluded to that you're going to go through. That's it. So I found it easier. He didn't do it right away. It's just to disassociate myself from my family. I moved here, not here, but I came to the UK in 1981, leaving my family, my familia, 5,000 miles away. And then I permanently moved here in 1984. And in 1981, when I came here, I was here to do a roll-up. I thought the same thing I did in 1984, I thought I was going to do in 1981. And I came here with 13 companies. One was my company and 12 other companies. I was going to roll up and we were going to go public. Except that was the same weekend that Princess Di married King Charles. And the credit market fell to shit. And it crushed all the IPOs. And so I never got to an IPO. And then I owed 506,000 pounds, which was about $2 million in fees. And so the lawyers and the accountants said, well, how are we going to settle? When can we send you an invoice? They were expecting to get cashed out when I went public. And we didn't go public, so I said, well, can you send me the invoices in the new year? So that would have been 1982, that January. And then the lawyer said, you know, Mr. Peña, you should have done it on a success fee basis. Now, the people that were in the room when they told me that, say I turned white and my knees got wobbly and I almost collapsed. I said, I beg your pardon? Yeah. I mean, hardly anybody pays for this thing up front. It's like private equity. I was nauseous. I thought my stomach was going to come up through my throat because I was going to throw up. So I discovered delayed fees the hard way. So then I had 505,000 pounds, which is about $2 million, which I didn't have. It took me till 1984 that I paid it off the slate. And then I came public on my birthday in 1984. And when they were suggesting me postpone my 1984 public, fuck you, we're not postponing anything. And so I ran around and sold the shares. But that's how I discovered delayed fees. And of course, I'm telling you, now some of you, historically speaking, are going to go out and recruit accountants and lawyers, and you're not going to say delayed fees. It's the only thing that it's one of the benchmarks of this model. No money. So some of your engagement letters that you're going to get is they want a retainer of $250,000 or $15,000 a month. And back in the days that I got the reports, and still today, the calls that Kim gets, well, that's not what we agreed or what you thought they agreed. They just send you a goddamn engagement letter. You put $200,000 down as a retainer, or you can pay $15,000 a month, 2 months in advance, which you don't have. Well, a couple of you have. But that's not what the model is. And that's because you didn't tell them properly. Or you weren't forceful enough. There's a slide, I didn't use this seminar, but it's called tacit approval. You've lived your life. Part of your bubble wrap life is tacit approval, meaning you hear somebody talk shit and you know it's shit, but you keep your mouth shut. And sometimes by accident, you may even nod up and down, giving approval to this horse shit they're talking. So then the next guy goes, the old man, the boss, he's okay with this. Not he's okay. He didn't say something against it. So in essence, you gave him tacit approval. And so a lot of the kids, because they've never been in with a big engagement partner, yada, 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 they don't ask questions. They don't poke them in the eye. They don't push the right button. So when you get the engagement letter, and once the engagement letter goes out, I'm not saying they're not irreversible, because they are, but you're causing that engagement partner embarrassment. He's losing face. You're besmirching him in the big firm he's part of. It could even affect his partnership points. And then when you ask him for a favor, he says, fuck off. But they don't tell you why. Because you embarrass him, and he got a smaller Christmas bonus because they do projections. They do spreadsheets just like you do. How much money are you going to bring in? And then how much of that portion is the engagement partner? Your relationship with these big firms is one person thick. It's the engagement partner. And in some, both Nelly and a few other guys that are big, Marcus, have 2 engagement partners. They also use more than one accounting firm. In some cases, and Nelly used to, we didn't ask him, He used more than one big law firm. But I mean, Anelli and Marcus and a number of others, you're as a partner, you're on a rocket ship to stardom because they do so many deals, and the delayed fees isn't forever. You know, when you're a $100 million company, although as a favor they may delay an invoice, as with Gabriel, the kid from Austrian kid that's knocking them dead in Switzerland. But, you know, they'll ask you, would you like to be billed quarterly every 6 months? And then that's when you're a machine. Because cash flow isn't as important to them as it is to us. Anything else or any questions about Anelli? Yes, sir, in the back.
Do you have a general rubric on how to incentivize a CEO and as far as like percent of profits or whatnot?
No, we don't give them profits. We give them equity. And the chart you're going to get, I told you the other day, normally 10% for a chairman, normally 7 or 8% for a CEO, normally 5 to 6% for a CFO, the in-house lawyer, 2 or 3, the industry experts, 2 or 3, the in-house accountant who's not the CFO, 2 or 3, and then you end up more or less with 2/3 or in the 60s. And as Anelli said, 65%. But his first deal was he sold an LBO to his employees, whereas Roberto bought on an LBO. And for some of the guys that have big, you know, and you define what big is, you want to get liquid, you want to get some cash, you want to pull out 25 or 50 million, so do a LBO to your employees. And some of the guys do. Some of the guys. But I mean, if you've got a company doing $2 million of revenue, that's how I'm talking about. And you have to have, you know, some mass. And it's easy to finance like you brush your teeth. Because when the employees default, you're not going to give them back. They're not going to give the company back to you. You don't want, that's the last thing. Well, put 5 more years on the note. I don't know if his employees have ever defaulted. I doubt it. In fact, most businesses, when you sell that way, do better than when you ran them. You're the problem. You're always the problem. You're never the solution. And I've seen that over 50 years. You know, Jesus Christ, how could they grow the business 30%? I'm there 25 years. The best year I ever had was 8%. Because you weren't there, asshole. You weren't out there sticking your thumbs in the deal, and as opposed to being grease for a squeaky wheel, you added rust to the squeaky wheel and it made more squeaky. Okay. Any questions about, yes, sir?
Kind of in continuing that, I've heard you said that for the executive directors, CEO, CFO, when we eventually have multiple businesses, their salary.
Oh, yeah. Once you're cash flowing, now see, when he first cash flowed, but he wasn't the first, when he could pay the other executives that are part of the new team, he also got money. He didn't just pay himself. Like some of the guys, you know, that are buying jet planes and shit like that haven't paid any money to the other directors. But eventually that model, if you don't pay everybody, falls apart. If they just see you running around, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and they've got nothing, then that dies. And then when your board members start to leave, the bank, to the extent that you have commercial banking, the bank doesn't ask you right away, what the hell, why is everybody leaving? And when your chairman leaves, I mean, I'm not selling myself a chairman. When I leave a deal, it's an atomic bomb. Normally, they never recover. I don't say anything. I do. Thank you very much. And then when I get my stock back, it was a great ride, Sweet Pea. I don't mean sexually. It was a great ride, Sweet Pea. Here, God bless you. Then I write a letter, the professional way, to the lawyers, to the accountants, to the rest of the board members, the banks. Adios, motherfucker. I'm off this boat. In fact, I've got a template for it. And then the next thing is, it's like she's on the bow of the Titanic. Seen the movie, Titanic? With DiCaprio there. And you're on that ice, sheet of ice, and then he drowns and she lives. Of course, more women, because they had more body fat. That's why more women lived. But when your chairman leaves, unless you kick him out the door for a reason, I mean, it's not good. So that, again, you got to pick the right person, the right guy, the right gal. Anything else about Anelli? I do not recommend you're a conglomerator. But anyway, yeah.
And then just on those salaries, it's best to go off of I've heard you say there's like the accountants will have metrics.
KPMG, University of Michigan, Oxford have between a 0 and 25 million revenue company. This is what CEOs, CFOs kind of get. Between a $100 and $500 million company, we're talking revenue. Between a $500 million and $1 billion company, between $1 billion and I mean, there's all kinds of statistics and data, what they should get paid. And it's normally not all salary. It's normally like 60% salary and 40% additional bonuses when you hit hurdle rates, return on investment, yada, yada, yada. And they will know that. So he may have been a CEO, like the guy that Peter got as chairman. He had retired as CEO of a worldwide big healthcare company, and he was coming back to Hungary to have his jollies. And but the last time he was CEO someplace, he probably got $1.5 million and $2 million in bonuses. And he comes to Peter. He got a cup of coffee and a cab fare. And so now, it's a big company, and so he's getting paid now. But when in the interviewing process, if they say, if money comes up, next. Because they know what it is. They're getting free founders' equity. And although it's not germane as much today, even the 2%ers in my deal got $9 million, which is, not a big deal. 40 years ago, $9 million was a big deal. Today, that's about $45 million. And but that's why sometimes, if you don't elicit the right kind of feedback from your board, they won't tell you the truth because they don't want you to throw them out. So one of the things you have to make clear is that, I want your unabided attention and truth, transparency when I step on my dick. But that's not the corporate way. And today, it wasn't 50 years ago when I started, and it's not today either. But, the chairman should not ridicule you in public, praise in public, ridicule in private. But he already knows that. I mean, you don't have to explain it to him. But anybody that's been CFO or CEO or in-house general counsel, meaning lawyer, will know, how the trains run and who's the conductor and who's not the conductor. But he's doing a terrific job. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't get that part. When do we start paying salaries? When we start getting cash
When
flow?
you cash flow. When the business is, you're not going to cash flow off the first business. All you're going to do is accrue equity to your 60 or 65%. But by the time, and you heard, because I think we went through 7 or 8 acquisitions before Andres got a salary. And of course, now the salary's tripled or quadrupled since then. And so the CFO and the CEO, which was him, or is him, got paid a salary. And it never happens as fast as you want or as fast as you need. Now, I've never seen it, It always takes longer. And then not the worst example, but a bad example is when Simon, another week or 10 days, and he'd be, the marshals or sheriffs or whatever they have, would be escorting him out of the penthouse at the Four Seasons. But he's more or less legend at the Four Seasons because that's where he's lived for the last, not 20 years, but 15 years. And literally he lives like King Farouk. I mean, he lives like a potentate. Before he met me. I mean, he just, like I was teasing him on that video you saw. I remember when you told me the first time, I love luxury. Well, he's not lying about that. Believe me, David is following in his footsteps. Anything else about Anelli? Okay, YouTube.